think about what to say today. It's been really hard to find words or even understand my feelings since the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban. I'm going to try my best to not be political, as that's one of the TED guidelines, but it's very challenging because I was born into a political body being an Afghan-American woman. I attended my first protest in my mother's womb just after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. So today, I speak with deep loyalty and love for my people, for the people of Afghanistan. If I had been born in Afghanistan, I could likely be stuck in the country right now. Or, for example, right now there are a group of refugees, Afghan refugees in Indonesia, who have sewn their mouths shut in a hunger strike because they have been stuck for several years, and this is their protest. So I want to honor my people today. In 2012, I gave my last TEDx talk in Kabul. It was the inaugural TEDx Kabul. And I remember the feeling in the room. It was full of hope, collaboration, and inspiration. I remember looking out at the audience. Everybody had these headsets on, and there were 3 different channels: an English channel, a Dari channel, and a Pashto channel. I looked out at the crowd, and I saw this generation that I realized were the children I visited in schools 10 years prior, and now they had come of age. And I felt a very big responsibility as I spoke before this generation. I spoke about being born in Los Angeles just after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. My father's family fled the country 21 days before I was born as refugees and moved into our home. My mom was Afghan and Sicilian, born in New Jersey. Today is her birthday. She passed a year and a half ago. I told the story of how my parents met in Kabul in the 60s. My mom went back to discover her father's roots, and she wanted to meet the nomadic people, the Kuchis, and my father was her translator for the day because they spoke Pashto and she spoke Dari. I told the story of my parents being dedicated activists all my life and how Afghanistan was the conversation at every dinner table. I never thought in my lifetime I'd ever get to go back. There was always war, and then there was Taliban rule. When 9/11 happened and the US occupation of Afghanistan began, the Taliban fell, and my parents moved back to the country to be part of a new chapter. I made my first trip in October of 2002, and I talked about how that trip changed my life forever. Afghanistan became the deepest love of my heart, my inspiration for all of my art and activism. I ended my talk by singing a song called The East about a little boy who grows up to become a Talib and regrets it. I met many incredible young Afghans who are so vital to their country. Like, for example, my friend's Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist Masood Hosseini, Afghanistan's first female graffiti artist Shamsia Hassani, activists like Sahar Fatrat, Kais Alamdar, and Sajid Argandiwal, the bands District Unknown and Kabul Dreams. We played shows together, we worked on peace campaigns together, and I watched for several years as this generation continued to outdo themselves. It went from a few different bands to a full spectrum of different genres of music. They were playing classical instruments of East and West. It went from a few entrepreneurs to a flourishing economy of young entrepreneurs. When I first made my first trip in 2002, there was barely any electricity. We had to use dial-up internet. Now the entire country had smartphones. In 2001, there were 0 girls in school because of the Taliban. Now there were 3.5 million girls in school. By 2015, my dear friend Fresha Farrow founded Afghanistan's first coding school for girls called Code to Inspire. The country was unrecognizable because of this tremendous generation of young Afghans that had rose up literally from the ashes of war and debris like a phoenix. They rebuilt their nation in record time, and somehow the world didn't know about them. There were terrorist attacks. The room at Istiklal School, where we gave our TEDx talks, was bombed a few years later. Someone was killed, several were injured. Universities were bombed, schools, businesses, not to mention drone strikes. But I still had so much faith. I did not think the country could go backward because of this generation. When the peace talks began in September of 2020, I felt pretty concerned. I didn't understand how a negotiation would stop the Taliban when they were continuously acting out in violent ways. When the withdrawal was announced, I held my breath and prayed. On August 15th, 2021, our worst nightmare happened, and Afghanistan fell to the Taliban again. I started getting a flood of DMs from young Afghans desperate to get out of the country. One that stands out to me today is from a young government worker. He reminded me that we met at TEDx Kabul in 2012. He was one of the young people in the crowd that I met that day. And he said to me, "Ariana, I'm waiting for my turn to be killed. There is no way to escape." Another young Afghan woman called me crying, and she said, "Ariana, I can't sleep, I can't eat, I'm afraid for my life, I'm afraid for my children." I calmed both of them down as best I could while I sat in shock and motivated to do whatever I could with my voice and my access. All of the diaspora around the world have been working around the clock to try to evacuate Afghans. We have photos, passport photos of children on our phones. We don't know if we can get them out or not. We try our best, but the Taliban banned girls from secondary school. Today is the 79th day that Afghan girls are banned from secondary school. Women have been banned from working. Journalists are being beaten and flogged. There have been public hangings and stonings. What is going to be the fate of my beautiful people and our thousands of years of history? I hesitate to offer any kind of solution today because what has happened is so horrific, and what is happening is such a betrayal. I can't make it okay. But I want Afghanistan to come out of this dark time as quickly as possible. So I want to offer an idea. If a few men sat at small tables in small rooms and negotiated away a country with very little regard for millions of Afghan lives, then what if the billions of global citizens around the world come together and we uplift, amplify, and empower this generation of young Afghans that I have spoken to you about, those that are still in the country and those who have recently fled. With them in the lead, we can work with them, we can partner with them in revolutionized and peaceful ways. All of you guys have different gifts out there, gifts I can't even think of. Maybe you have an idea I don't even have. But through art, beauty, psychology, wellness practices, science, finance, technology, we can support this generation. We can partner with them. And maybe this moment that is seemingly a failure and a breakdown can become a breakthrough. I believe that we can weave a new dream that is peaceful, free, united, inclusive. Maybe Afghanistan is where we transcend borders and broken systems, and we come together as a planet, together, and protect the human rights and freedom of one another. I believe in this generation. I believe in all of you, and I believe in me, and I believe that if we come together with these intentions, a miracle can emerge for Afghanistan. Thank you.